How are you today? It's so good to see you. Welcome back to another episode of Hamilton Reads. I'm your host, Mr. Hamilton, and you just caught me in the middle of a little bit of yoga. So, I sometimes do yoga just to help myself relax. It's really good for stretching your muscles, staying loose, and it's also a really good mindfulness technique that a lot of people use kind of as a replacement to meditation. So, a little helpful hint, yoga's not the worst thing in the world. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my book. Right here, Fantastic Mr. Fox. And today we're actually going to read chapters 13 and chapters 14 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. So today is actually Friday, May 15th, and I want to apologize for missing the last couple of days. It's just been a really busy week for myself, but I'm glad to have you back here today, Friday, May 15th, and I can't wait to read the next two chapters. So the next chapter is called Bunce's Giant Storehouse. "Oh, my dear Foxy," cried Badger, "what in the world has happened to your tail?" "Well, don't talk about it, please," said Mr. Fox. "It's a painful subject." They were digging the new tunnel now. They dug on in silence. Badger was a great digger, and the tunnel went forward at a terrific pace now that he was lending a paw. Soon they were crouching underneath yet another wooden floor. Mr. Fox grinned slyly, showing sharp white teeth. "If I'm not mistaken, my dear Badger," he said, "we're now underneath the farm which belongs to that nasty little pot-bellied dwarf, Bunce. We are, in fact, directly underneath the most interesting part of that farm." "Ducks and geese!" cried the small foxes, licking their lips. "Juicy, tender ducks and big fat geese." "Exactly," said Mr. Fox. "Well, but how in the world can you know where we are?" asked Badger. Mr. Fox grinned again, showing even more white teeth. "Look," he said, "I know my way around these farms blindfold. For me, it's just as easy below ground as it is above." He reached high and pushed up one wooden floorboard, then another. He poked his head through the gap. "Yes," he shouted, jumping up in the room above. "I've done it again. I've hit it smack on the nose. Right in the bullseye. Come and look." Here's a little picture of them burrowing through another tunnel. Quickly, Badger and the three small foxes scrambled up after him. They stopped and stared. They stood and gaped. They were so overwhelmed they couldn't speak. For what they now saw was a kind of fox's dream, a badger's dream, a paradise for hungry animals. "This, my dear old Badger," proclaimed Mr. Fox, "is Bunce's mighty storehouse. All his finest stuff is stored in here before he sends it off to market." Against all the four walls of the great room, stacked in cupboards and piled upon shelves reaching from floor to ceiling, were thousands and thousands of the finest and fattest ducks and geese, plucked and ready for roasting. And up above, dangling from the rafters, there must have been at least 100 smoked hams and 50 sides of bacon. "Oh, just feast your eyes on that," cried Mr. Fox, dancing up and down. "What'd you think of it, eh? Pretty good grub, huh?" So here's them entering into that house, and over here you can see the cupboards and cupboards, stacks and stacks of all those plucked geese and ducks ready to be eaten. Suddenly, as though springs had been released in their legs, the three hungry small foxes and the ravenously hungry badger sprang forward to grab the luscious food. "Stop!" ordered Mr. Fox. "This is my party, so I shall do the choosing." The others fell back, licking their chops. Mr. Fox began prowling around the storehouse, examining the glorious display with an expert eye. A thread of saliva slid down one side of his jaw and hung suspended in midair, then snapped. "Oh, we mustn't overdo it," he said. "Mustn't give the game away. Mustn't let them know we've been up to. We must be neat and tidy and just take a few of the choicest morsels. So to start with, we shall have 4 plump young ducks." He took them from the shelf. "Oh, how lovely and fat they are. No wonder Bunce got a special price for them in the market. All right, Badger, lend me a hand to get them down. You children can help as well. There we go. Oh, goodness me, look how your mouths are watering. All right, and now I think we'd better have a few geese. 3 will be quite enough. We'll take the biggest. Oh my, you'll never see finer geese than these in a king's kitchen. Well, gently does it. Yup, that's the way. And what about a couple of nice smoked hams? I adore smoked hams, don't you, Badger? Fetch me that stepladder, will you please? Mr. Fox climbed up the ladder and handed down 3 magnificent hams. And do you like bacon, Badger? I'm mad about bacon, cried Badger, dancing with excitement. Let's have a side of bacon, that big one up there. Oh, and carrots, Dad, said the smallest of the 3 foxes. We must have some of those carrots. Don't be a twerp, said Mr. Fox. You know we never eat things like that. Well, it's not for us, Dad, it's for the rabbits. They only eat vegetables. Oh, my goodness me, you're right, cried Mr. Fox. What a thoughtful little fellow you are. Take 10 bunches of carrots. Soon all this lovely loot was lying in a neat heap upon the floor. The small foxes crouched close, their noses twitching, their eyes shining like stars. And now, said Mr. Fox, we shall have to borrow from our friend Bunce 2 of those useful push carts in the corner. He and Badger fetched those push carts, and the ducks and geese and hams and bacon were loaded onto them. Quickly, the push carts were lowered through the hole in the floor. The animals slid down after them. Back in the tunnel, Mr. Fox again pulled the floorboards very carefully into place so that no one could see they had been moved. Oh, my darlings, he said, pointing to 2 of the 3 small foxes, take a cart each and run back as fast as you can to your mother. Give her my love and tell her we are having guests for dinner. The badgers, the moles, the rabbits, and the weasels. Tell her it must be a truly great feast, and tell her the rest of us will be home as soon as we've done one more little job. Oh, yes, Dad. Right away, Dad, they answered, and they grabbed a trolley each and went rushing off down the tunnel. The next chapter and the last chapter we're going to read is chapter 14, which is called Badger Has Doubts. Just one more visit, cried Mr. Fox. Well, I'll bet I know where that'll be, said the only small fox left. He was the smallest fox of them all. Well, where? Asked Badger. Well, said the smallest fox, we've been to Boggus's and we've been to Bunce's, but we haven't yet been to Beans. It must be Beans. Well, you're right, said Mr. Fox. But what you don't know is which part of Beans' place we're about to visit. Well, which, they said, both together. Aha, said Mr. Fox, just you wait and see. They were digging as they talked now. The tunnel was going forward fast. Suddenly, Badger said, doesn't this worry you just a tiny bit, Foxy? Worry me, said Mr. Fox. What? All this stealing. Mr. Fox stopped digging and stared at Badger as though he had gone completely dotty. Oh, my dear old furry frump, he said, do you know anyone in the whole world who wouldn't swipe a few chickens if his children were starving to death? There was a short silence while Badger thought deeply about this. You are far too respectable, said Mr. Fox. Well, there's nothing wrong with being respectable, Badger said. Look, said Mr. Fox, Boggus and Bunce and Bean are out to kill us. You realize that, I hope. Well, I do, Foxy, I do indeed, said the gentle Badger. We're not going to stoop to their level. We don't want to kill them. Well, I should hope not indeed, said Badger. We wouldn't dream of it, said Mr. Fox. We shall simply take a little food here and there to keep our families alive, right? I suppose we'll have to, said Badger. If they want to be horrible, let them, said Mr. Fox. We down here are decent, peace-loving people. Badger laid his head on one side and smiled at Mr. Fox. Foxy, he said, I love you. Oh, thank you, said Mr. Fox. And now let's get on with the digging. 5 minutes later, Badger's front paws hit against something flat and hard. What on earth is this, he said. It looks like a solid stone wall. He and Mr. Fox scraped away the soil. It was a wall, but it was built of bricks, not stones. The wall was right in front of them, blocking their way. Now, who in the world would build a wall under the ground? Asked Badger. Very simple, said Mr. Fox. It's the wall of an underground room, and if I'm not mistaken, it is exactly what I'm looking for. That's the end of the chapter. That's where we're going to pick up on Monday. which will be Monday, May 18th. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying Fantastic Mr. Fox. I certainly am. Like I said, I've seen the movie, but I've never read the book, so this is a first for me, and I'm really enjoying the book. It's got a lot of similarities, but at the same time a lot of differences, and that's something I always like to talk about when I read books that are then later turned into movies, because there's a lot of comparing and contrasting between the two. So anyway, we're done finishing chapters 13 and 14 for the day. We'll pick up on 15 on Monday. Looking forward to that. So today I was just doing some yoga. Obviously I don't have my normal blue cardigan on. I like to wear that when I'm reading and relaxing. But today I was doing yoga, so I kind of have sweatpants on. I have sweatpants, Adidas sweatpants. I've got a Millersville sweatshirt. This Millersville sweatshirt was actually bought by my mom when my mom went to college at Millersville. And she graduated from Millersville, and I later graduated from Millersville as well. So this is a really special shirt for me. But I don't wear any socks when I'm doing yoga. I like to feel the earth beneath my toes. So with that being said, that was kind of our shirt and sock segment today. I'm wearing a very special sweater. It's very, very old. Millersville University. It doesn't even have a hood. So not that that means it's old, but it's a very old sweatshirt. I would guess that it's probably close to probably around 20 years old or more. So that's a really cool artifact in my closet. Now for our shout outs today, I would like to shout out number one, Adidas sweatpants. Adidas always giving me the most comfortable sweatpants. I love Adidas sweatpants. I probably have 4 or 5 pairs of Adidas sweatpants. I love them. I would also like to shout out to, let me think. I need some unique shout outs today. I would like to shout out to I'm running out of shout outs. Let's revert back to the beginning. Not that this is insignificant, because it's very significant, but shout out to all the healthcare workers that are still grinding. We are still amongst a time in which we are in unprecedented times during this pandemic, the coronavirus, and shout out to all the healthcare workers who are every day not only putting their own lives on the line, but also the lives of their family and friends. And I just want to really reiterate how much I appreciate you guys doing all that you do to keep us safe and well and healthy. So thank you so much to all the healthcare workers. Thanks to Adidas for the softest sweatpants in the world. And then my last shout out is going to go to the mindfulness coordinator or educator at the YWCA. Her name is Kristen, and she does a great job educating people on mindfulness and what that means. She does a lot of yoga, and she does a lot of meditating, mindfulness practices, and that's something that's important to keep in mind, especially when you're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed. So being very mindful, taking the time to just have a mindful moment every day, deep breaths, listen to music, take a bubble bath, do yoga, read a book. Many ways to be mindful and taking a mindful moment. So that concludes another episode of Hamilton Reads. Thank you for stopping by today, Friday, May 15th. And look forward to another episode on Monday, May 18th, in which we'll read chapters 15 and 16 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. Bye.